Hey class, this is my grandma here to talk about Kalaupapa. So in 1993, you went to Kalaupapa with some friends.
Yes.
Can you tell me about why you were going there?
We were going just because we had heard that there was a mule ride that went down the mountain, down from the top of Molokai, down the cliffs, down to the peninsula. And in fact, we saw a bumper sticker that said, "I rode a mule on Molokai." And we thought it would be fun to have a bumper sticker. So we went over to ride a mule.
So once you rode the mule down, you came down to the settlement, and you were met with a man.
Right. The man who met us, and if I remember right, his name was Jimmy. And he was someone who lived at the leper colony. He was there. He was there because he was a leper. And he had a bus, and he took us around, showed us the whole colony, where he lived, where the ships came in once a month now and brought provisions, and Father Damien's church. And then he told us how he happened to come to Molokai.
And how's that?
When he was a boy, he lived in Honolulu. He lived in Kalihi, actually. And he was in school one day. And his teacher noticed a scaly patch on his arm and asked him, what was that? And he said he didn't know. This was back before Pearl Harbor. And everybody was very afraid of leprosy. And his teacher immediately took him to an office, a state-run medical office, I guess, where the doctor said, yes, indeed, that was leprosy, and he wasn't allowed to go back home. He was actually detained there. His parents were called and notified, and they were allowed to come and say goodbye to him. But he actually was put on a ship within a few days, and he was shipped over to Molokai. And when he got there, there wasn't any landing for the ships at that time. And so the ship came as close to shore as it could get. And then it just kind of threw people off. And on the shore, they could see that there were lepers lined up waiting. They knew the ship was coming, and they knew that the people were going to be there. And they came out into the water and helped the people from the ship so that they could make it safely to shore. And then because he was just a boy, he was adopted by a family that lived there, by a couple that lived there, a couple of lepers. And because there were no children allowed in that settlement, because children were suspected to be unusually susceptible to leprosy. So that meant that any child who had leprosy and actually was sent there was really treasured by the people who were there, because they were the only children, and they were immediately would be adopted and well taken care of, because they wanted children there so badly. They missed them very much. So he lived there all his life. He was about, I guess, maybe in his 70s when I knew him. So he'd been there for 60 years anyway. And he had he'd married another leper, and they'd had 2 children. And when those children were born, they were immediately taken away from them, brought back to Honolulu and adopted, and he didn't know what had happened to them. He never knew what had become of those children. When he was, I don't know, during the 70s and 80s, when leprosy had really been cured and the colony was kind of closing down, he was given a chance to come back. He was told he could come back to Honolulu if he wanted, but he decided to stay in Molokai because He didn't know anybody in Honolulu. Everybody he knew was in Kalaupapa. And he had lost touch with his family. He didn't know where any of them were. And he said he was just going to stay where he was. He was happy living at Kalaupapa now. And actually, I believe the present population is way, way down. It's maybe 5 or 6 people. I don't really know. I mean, 5 or 6 former lepers. There still are park rangers and things there because it's a national park now. It was a very sad, lonely place, but it was beautiful. It was very... The cliffs behind it were very green. The plain of the peninsula was grassy with lots of trees, and the ocean around it was beautiful. But these people couldn't leave.
Okay, well, thank you, Grandma.
You're welcome.
Could you guys give a round of applause?